This will be hard to deal with. What you are about to face is not meant to make you feel better. It doesn't mean to make you feel better like trite words of consolation do. It is supposed to hurt, to make you uncomfortable, and to take away the false beliefs you hold on to. The truth is that life will break you. Not in a nice way, not in a polite way, and not with a fair warning. One day it will happen, whether it's via betrayal, grief, humiliation, or situations so cruel that you will doubt whether you were ever really strong. And at that moment, when your barriers are down and your illusions are broken, you will find out if your mind is made of iron or glass. People like to think that you get stronger when things are calm, and that you get stronger when you surround yourself with love, affirmations, and comfort. But history tells a harsher truth. The strongest minds are not made in the light, but in the dark. They are pounded by calamity, sharpened by pain, and made stronger by the weight of being alone. People who can't handle this ordeal become bitter, hopeless, and weak. Those who endure, those who transform pain into steel, rise with a frigid, unbreakable might. But this is where the contradiction that should already make you uneasy comes in. The same things that could kill you are also the things that could change you. Being damaged is both a curse and a secret invitation. But most people say no to the invitation. They sink in it, fight it, curse the unfairness, and spend their lives running from the wound that could have been their weapon. The question is not if life will break you. It will. What will you become after the breaking? This paradox is scary in some way. This indicates that you can't get strength by making a choice or having a privilege. It is forced on you by harshness. Life itself decides if you go up or down. And most, let's be honest, most don't get up. They're crushed. They hide behind distractions, numb themselves with pleasure, or sell their souls for ease, always avoiding the one thing they needed most, the trial by fire. Machiavelli, who was frigid in his views on power, taught us hundreds of years ago that men are not destroyed when they are loathed, poor, or attacked. When they are weak and their soul bends at the first hint of pressure, they are ruined. He said that luck is like a wild woman, cruel, unpredictable, and unforgiving. And only those who hit her hard, those who can control themselves first, can calm her down. His admonition was not poetic, it was practical. People who can handle shame, betrayal, and misery without falling apart own the world. But you should ask yourself, are you one of those few? Or will you break down the first time the universe doesn't play fair? Consider this. Every great person you look up to, whether they were a conqueror, a philosopher, or a revolutionary, was not made in calm waters but in storms. Before he became Rome's most feared leader, pirates almost caught and humiliated Caesar. Nietzsche lived in pain, sickness, and solitude for most of his life, but he wrote words that changed philosophy. Dostoevsky was put through a fake death before being sent to Siberia, where he authored great works while being deprived of his dignity. Life broke them all, and in the shattering, they found their steel. So here's the big question. When life knocks you down, when everything you love is taken away, and when you are left crawling in the dust of your destroyed plans, what will be left of you? Will you disappear into self-pity and become another victim of life? Or will you discover Machiavelli's harsh truth, that real power comes not from pleasure or safety, but from surviving the destruction of your own soul? Don't answer right away. Don't answer easily. You need to understand this law because everything in your life depends on it. It seems almost cruel to know that pain doesn't ask for your permission or care about how ready you are. The blow comes when it wants to, not when you're ready. You may either fall apart or win when it arrives. There is no intermediate ground. No one is safe. And if you still think you can evade this fate, Look around you. Every destroyed family, every shattered hope, and every scar on the human heart are proof that the trial is universal. Death will take everything you love, betrayal will break your trust, and sadness will fill your head. If you act like it's not going to happen, it will devastate you when it does. If you accept it, you might learn to rise with a strength so rare that even tragedy bends to it. So I'll question you again, but this time more directly. When the shattering happens, will you be a victim or a weapon? This is where the trip starts. To face the hidden causes of your weakness, to find the mental traps that keep you from becoming strong, and to break the illusions that make you weak. Only then can you learn how to train your mind to not only survive, but also to win, when life throws its hardest punches. If you look closely at the lives of most men, you will see something that will bother you. They don't really live with strength. They live with borrowed illusions. They don't base their lives on their own will. Instead, they base them on weak things like other people's acceptance, comfort, money, short-lived joys, and borrowed identities. If you take these away, they fall apart like their own existence has been ripped apart. Why? Because they were taught to be gentle, not strong. They have confused comfort with strength. And when life takes away their comforts, they find that nothing of value is left inside. Carl Jung famously said that modern people are possessed by what they won't face. The shadow, which is made up of portions of the mind that you don't want to deal with, doesn't go away just because you ignore it. Instead, it blooms in secret, waiting for the time when life's unfairness breaks down your barriers. Most people don't lose because of the outside world. They lose because of the inner turbulence they never faced. They have lived as strangers to themselves, running away from their fears, holding back their wrath, and staying away from their loneliness. When the breaking point occurs, all of those repressed forces come out at once. That's why the collapse feels so complete. It's not just the world that falls apart, but the self. Nietzsche, with his brutal honesty, said this: "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." What he meant was simple but scary. If you don't build up a powerful why inside yourself, a force that can't be taken away, you'll fall apart at the first how. And the modern society, which is obsessed with safety and pleasure, has made this even worse. From the time we are born, we are trained to look for acceptance, to be afraid of being uncomfortable, and to stay away from fights. There are whole industries that try to keep you from feeling pain and help you avoid the things that might make you stronger. Comfort has turned into a kind of slow poison. It takes away your strength and makes you think that you can get stronger without going through pain. But Machiavelli would find this funny. He thought that men are weak when they follow their inclinations. He said, "Men forget their father's death more quickly than they forget the loss of their property." What he meant was harsh. Men are not loyal out of honor, but out of fear, survival, and desire. Take away their false hopes, and you'll find that they are not strong, but desperate. He never believed in the goodwill of people, since he understood it was weak and could be quickly twisted by good luck. His lesson was not to hate people, but to face their nature head on. And this is where you should start if you want to train your mind to handle life's breaks. By admitting that weakness is the default state of man. The problem is that you weren't born strong. You weren't born with discipline. You weren't born brave. These need to be made. But most people don't even try. They act like life owes them fairness, and that fate will spare them if they are nice or work hard. They believe that strength will come to them when they need it, even though they have never trained it. But when disaster strikes, what comes out is not strength but terror. weakness, and collapse. The psychological roots are really deep. Modern psychology demonstrates that the brain is inherently programmed to evade pain and pursue comfort relentlessly. The amygdala, which is the part of your brain that controls fear, reacts right away to danger. Your gut tells you to run, hide, and find protection. But the strange thing is that safety makes you weaker. If you always follow your impulse to run away from pain, you will never gain the inner strength you need to deal with the pain that life brings. This is why Stoics, warriors, and intellectuals throughout history purposely put themselves in uncomfortable situations like fasting, being cold, being alone, and going through bad times. Not because they liked pain, but because they understood it was the only way to become strong. But culture today teaches the contrary. There is an escape everywhere you look. Entertainment, drugs, and limitless things to do. The message is clear. Don't fight, don't endure, don't resist, get out. But how much does this cost? The price is fragility. The price is that when life takes away your distractions, you find out that your mind is untrained, soft, and completely unprotected. This is why most people feel like their lives are falling apart. They are not only dealing with loss from outside, they are also dealing with the awful realization that they never built an internal foundation. They spent years making their identity out of things that could be lost. And when life does take them away, as it inevitably will, their mind breaks down because it was never theirs to begin with. The philosopher Kierkegaard warned about this illness that is not obvious. He termed it despair, but not in the usual way. He meant the despair of not being completely yourself. It is the silent, invisible sickness of living in a world of lies. When the storm strikes, that hopelessness comes out and it feels like the end of the world. So this is where it all starts. Being fragile isn't an accident. It grows when you ignore things, believe in things that aren't true, or get distracted. And the sad thing is that society celebrates being weak, praises being comfortable, and sells being weak as being wise. You are told to heal by running away, to recover by giving in, and to cope by becoming lost in something else. Machiavelli would warn you, though, the guy who leans on illusions has already lost. And this takes us back to you. What pieces of yourself have you erected on shaky ground? What false beliefs do you hold on to, thinking they will keep you safe when the storm comes? And more importantly, what happens when they are taken away and you are left with nothing but your raw, untrained mind? We can't see all of the deeper effects of this yet. They go beyond just hurting people. They hurt whole societies and generations. But before we deal with those implications, you need to understand that weakness is not an exception. Being weak is normal, and if you don't fight back against this, you'll fall apart like everyone else when life hits you hard. You can't always see the cost of weakness right away. It doesn't often show up as a single big collapse. Instead, it seeps into the corners of your life like poison, quietly changing who you are and discreetly setting the limits on what you will try. Weakness is not just a personal problem. It is a jail that changes the structure of your life. Consider the subtle ways it takes hold. A man who has been betrayed once will not trust again, not because trust is impossible, but because he is too weak to handle another wound. When a woman is left once, she is enslaved to her dread of losing someone, which ruins every subsequent relationship before it can bloom. A dreamer who has been humiliated once chooses never to take a chance again, so they live safely but emptily for decades. Each of these is more than simply a wound. It's a chain. Weakness makes you think that ignoring the hurt is strong, but in truth, it is the slow death of the soul. Once the mind is broken and not rebuilt, it learns a hazardous lesson. It's better to stay little. This is how lives get smaller. This is how people lose their dreams, stop working hard, and stop getting better. A lot of people don't even know this is happening, which is sad. They say it's practical, realistic, and mature. But if you take away the euphemisms, what it really is giving up. This is what psychologists term learned helplessness. Experiments with animals demonstrated that when subjected to persistent, uncontrollable anguish, they ultimately cease all resistance. They won't leave even when the cage is open. They have been taught to be weak, and that's how it is with people. Every blow from life that you don't face and turn into strength is another nail in your will's coffin. You quit battling after a while. You give up. Even when the door is wide open, you see the cage as your universe. But the effects reach beyond just your own life. Weakness spreads through whole societies like a disease. A generation that can't handle discomfort creates a sense of entitlement. A society that can't stand pain wants safety at all costs, even if it means giving up freedom. People that are weak make systems that are weak, and when such systems are put to the test, they fall apart. Nietzsche predicted this when he wrote about the last man, a being of luxury, entertainment, and minor pleasures who mocks grandeur because it involves suffering. The last man is the lowest form of humanity, secure, happy, weak, and completely forgettable. The neurological foundations of this trap are even more brutal. Your brain, which is used to being afraid, forms routines that help you avoid things. The more you want to avoid pain, the stronger the circuits that help you do so get. This is not a metaphor, it is biology. Every time you escape instead than persevere, you make the groove of weakness deeper. Neural pathways get stronger with use. It becomes second nature very quickly. When pain comes, you run away without thinking. It gets harder to stop the more you do it. Weakness becomes a part of your biology. Now think about what your life will be like when this is all over. It looks serene on the outside, yet inside there is silent sadness. It seems like scrolling forever, being distracted all the time and holding on to comfort. It looks like someone who never really lived, just existing. And the scariest part? They don't even know it until it's too late. This is the hidden effect. You don't suffer, but you cease growing. Life doesn't hurt you, the wound does. Weakness takes away not only your strength, but also your future, because brilliance needs suffering. Every empire, every revolution, and every philosophy that changed the globe came from turning pain into power. And if you don't want to suffer, you don't want to be great. Machiavelli understood this in terms of politics. He noted that states that sought safety by avoiding suffering became vulnerable to takeover. Enemies killed leaders who didn't show definitive cruelty in order to look kind. His message was harsh. It's not the terrible times that break you, but your incapacity to use them as a weapon. A prince who can't handle pain loses his crown. A man who can't stand pain dies in small, humiliating pieces over time. And this is when the need becomes more urgent. If you keep being weak, you might not discover that you've fallen apart until years later. You won't wake up one day and realize that you're broken. Instead, you will slowly fade away, growing smaller, more timid, and less memorable until you disappear into mediocrity without ever fighting the struggle for your own mind. Not death, but a type of half-life is the real result. So the question becomes too much to bear. How many years will you waste before you realize that the break was never your enemy, but your chance? How long will you run before you realize the cage was never locked? You have to deal with this stress. Because once you see the chains and feel the infection of weakness seeping through your mind, you can't stay indifferent. The only way to move on is to rebel against weakness and choose to suffer as a way to get stronger. Next, we'll talk about that insurrection. You have seen where weakness comes from. You have seen the effects that are not spoken. And now, if you still have any spark left in you, you need to choose whether to stay one of the many weak souls who quietly fall apart or to fight back. Don't get me wrong. Getting rid of weakness is not a simple procedure. It isn't about getting better in the way that the world teaches you. It is about rebellion. It's about going against everything that has made you weak, mushy, and reliant. The first law of this revolt is to be completely honest. Weakness lives on in fantasy. It lives on in the lies you tell yourself about why you failed, why you're not big, and why you don't need to change. I didn't want it anyway. It's not my fault. I'll give it a shot later. These are the soft sounds that help you fall back asleep. To be a rebel, you have to kill these illusions with brutal clarity. You have to look in the mirror and accept, without making excuses, that you have been weak, that you have stayed away from pain, that you have allowed yourself to be chained. The fire of change can only start from this clarity. The second law is intentional exposure. Comfort is bad for you, and the only way to get rid of it is to feel some pain. You need to exercise your mind by going to the areas that scare you, just like fighters train their body with weights, fire, and steel. Nietzsche talked about amor fati, which means love of fate. Not just accepting, but loving the harshness of life, despite its cruelty. To practice this is to look for difficulty on purpose. Fasting to see how hungry you are, being alone to see how lonely you are, being rejected to see how strong your ego is, and failing to see how strong your commitment is. You can't wait for pain to come. You have to ask for it. You need to work on yourself every day in minor ways so that when the big break occurs, you are already steel. The third law is to be completely detached. Weakness grows when you rely on others. You hold on to things like people, things, titles, and prestige as if they make you who you are. Machiavelli would say, though, that luck takes what it wants. If you think your identity is based on what you can take, you've already lost. You need to separate from the insurrection. Not to give up everything, but to not take things too seriously. Yes, love profoundly, but don't hold on. Have money, definitely, but don't rely on it. Yes, enjoy praise, but don't let it define you. This way, when life takes everything away from you, you don't lose anything important. Your mind is still whole, safe, and impenetrable. The fourth law is to accept cruelty, but not against others, only toward yourself. Not in the sense of hate, but in the sense of discipline that is so harsh that it seems cruel. You need to crush every part of you that doesn't want to be uncomfortable. You must kill every instinct that tells you to run away. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, would wake up and tell himself, "You will face pain, pride, and betrayal. Get up anyway." He didn't make himself feel better by imagining that things were fair. He made himself stronger by telling the truth. And you must too. The fifth law is to make things. You can't just go through pain, you have to do something with it. If you don't do anything with the suffering, your mind can become angry, resentful, or even suicidal. The uprising wants more. You have to turn grief into strength, into creativity, and into meaning. Dostoevsky wrote stories that still shake the spirit about being exiled and miserable. Jung converted his journey into lunacy, into a psychology that charted the human spirit. Machiavelli authored The Prince when he was in exile, and it became one of the most famous works of strategy in history. Rebellion is not just about getting through pain, it's about using it as a weapon. Now think about this. At first, rebellion isn't really exciting. It doesn't start with big moves. It starts with the simplest, most intimate choices. Like when you stop making excuses, when you put up with the pain, and when you don't give in to despair. You teach your mind the art of power every time you choose to stay strong instead of running away. The circuits that help you avoid things get weaker with time, while the circuits that help you bounce back get stronger. You are literally changing the way your brain works to make it stronger. But here's the strange thing. The stronger you get, the more pain you'll bring into your life. Why? Because power makes people fight back. People don't usually test a weak individual since he doesn't constitute a threat. But as you start to live with perseverance and embody strength, life will hit you harder. There will be enemies. Fortune will fight back. This isn't a punishment. It is proof. The storm doesn't attack the weak. It fights against those who are getting stronger. If your pain gets worse, it signifies you're on the right track. You might also be wondering if it's worth it. To live with constant problems, constant tests, and constant resistance? The truth is that comfort will never make you happy. You already know this deep down. The human soul does not want safety. It seeks conquest, creation, and expansion. A life of leisure may appear appealing, but it ultimately leads to emptiness. Even though life is hard, it ends in brilliance. That is why the most important people in history chose to fight. They chose to fight back because they knew the secret. The harder life is, the stronger the soul. So, this rebellion is more than just a way to stay alive. It is a method to take back control of your life. It is knowing that you don't have to wait for life to break you to grow. You can shatter yourself on purpose every day in ways that make you stronger instead of weaker. And by doing this, you won't be broken when fate does strike. You will already be on fire. So now you have a choice. Will you fight back? Will you willingly enter the storm, let go of your illusions, accept pain, and turn it into strength? Or will you go back to the peaceful rod of comfort, knowing full well what will happen when it falls apart? You have an option. But know this, if you want to live with power, you have to revolt. And the only way to get to the ultimate truth, the most terrible, freeing, and deep understanding of existence itself, is to rebel. And that's what we have to deal with now. You must face one last fact, and it won't make you feel better. It won't make you feel better. In fact, it can bother you so much that you will fight it at first. But if you accept it and let it sink deep into your being, it will give you a type of mental strength that nothing in life, loss, betrayal, or even death, will ever have power over you again. The truth is that life is not meant to spare you. It shouldn't be fair, nice, or merciful. It doesn't even mean to reward you. Life is not a negotiator, a parent, or a judge. It is a mess, and it doesn't care. And yet, this lack of interest is what sets you free. You are no longer a prisoner of life once you stop expecting it to be fair and stop wanting it to comfort you. People frequently say that Machiavelli was heartless, although he knew this better than most. He noted that luck does not favor the good or the innocent. It favors the smart, the prepared, and the strong. He said that luck was like a furious river that could flood at any time and ruin everything in its path. The weak build feeble dwellings along the banks, assuming the river won't hurt them. The powerful erect dams change the flow of water and learn how to control it. The river doesn't care either way. It destroys without thinking. But people who understand what it is can use its power. This is the most important truth. The breaking is not your enemy. It is how you live. You were never told you would be safe. You were never promised that things would be easy. The only thing that is certain is that things will be hard. And once you accept this, once you stop fighting it and say, yes, break me, test me, strip me, because I will only get stronger, you have moved beyond weakness. The mind is held captive by expectancy. You anticipate life to be nice, but when it's not, you suffer twice. Once from the event and once from the fact that your expectations were wrong. But the rebel's mind doesn't expect anything. It thinks of pain, treachery, and brutality. And because of this, he doesn't crumble when the hit comes. He affirms it. He nods and says in a low voice, "I knew you would come." Hit harder. Look at me ascend. This is not hopelessness. It is liberty. What can beat someone who no longer believes in false hopes? What can destroy someone who has taken destruction as their teacher? Nietzsche summed this up in one powerful thought. Become who you are. Not who the world tells you to be, not who comfort has made you into, but the strong, unbreakable core that comes out when everything else is taken away. To become who you are means to be shaped by the fire of suffering and to accept the breaking as the crucible of your being. Jung observed it as well. He said that the most important changes in the soul happen when we go into the depths of chaos, face the gloom, and let ourselves be destroyed and restored. People today don't want to go down this path because they're scared of what they might uncover. But the truth is that this fight is what gives birth to greatness, depth, and real strength. And so the ultimate law of mental power is revealed. Cease being afraid of the breaking. Don't run away from it. Teach your mind to accept it, embrace it, and use it as fuel. You can't stop life from breaking you, but you can choose whether the shattering makes you stronger or weaker. Think about steel. It isn't strong until it is hammered, burned, cooled, then hammered again. Every hit, every blaze, and every break makes it harsher, sharper, and longer lasting. You are the same. Every loss, treachery, and failure is another blow of the hammer. And if you don't go through with it, you stay brittle. But if you give into it and let the hammer form you, you will never break. The last paradox is that a man who accepts brokenness cannot be broken. He is free from fear because he no longer clings to protection. He can't be hurt by pain anymore because he doesn't avoid it. He doesn't fight against defeat anymore. Thus, nothing can really be taken from him. Machiavelli would tell you this hard truth about mental power. Luck can't beat someone who has already beaten himself. The question is no longer what will happen when life destroys you. You already know it will. The question is whether or not you will teach your mind to convert breaking into rebirth. Will you accept pain as a friend instead of an enemy? Will you accept that your fate is not to go away from the storm, but to become it? You have to choose, and your choice won't be heard in words, but in the quiet of your future. When life takes away what you love, when treachery slices you open, and when sadness weighs down on your chest, you will remember this choice. Will you give up and become bitter, or will you stay mediocre? Or will you rise from the ashes, icy, sharp, and untouchable, made into something the world can't break? This is your time. Train your mind, get rid of false ideas, and accept the shattering. Only in that fire will you become what you were always meant to be: strong, dangerous, and free.